Welcome to Fanalyze This. I'm Joe 5 o'clock somewhere.
And I'm Anthony Perry.
Hold on, AP. Let me fanalyze this for you real quick.
Tell 24 to pass the ball.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
It's not what I'm talking about, man.
Welcome to Fanalyze This. It's Tuesday, May 28th. I'm Joe 5 o'clock somewhere.
And sitting in for AP, I'm Michael Liu.
Oh, man, we got a whole lot to talk about today. A whole lot went on over the weekend. But before we get started, I want to remind you, as always, to go ahead and like Fanalyze This on Facebook. We also have our YouTube page up now. It's Fanalyze This with no spaces. You can follow us on Twitter and catch any past episodes you've missed on Spreaker.com. While you're over there, I want to remind you, as always, to check out our affiliate shows. There's quite a few of them. On Air with Ruben J., the UOU Show, No Salary Cap Radio, the Sanders Sports Show, and DNA Radio. Man, we got a whole lot to talk about today. Like I said, UFC 160 was Saturday.
Oh, man, that was an awesome show.
Got a couple more teams moving on in the playoffs. Big surprises, actually, from our end. We made some predictions that... actually, I think a lot of people made this prediction. And
Easy.
let me go on a limb here. I'm going to say that 0 people picked the San Antonio Spurs to sweep the Memphis Grizzlies. There's no way anyone picked a sweep.
No, definitely not. And there was actually a few people that actually picked San Antonio to actually win the series, too.
Yeah, there were a few, we talked off the air about, the Wilbon crew with Magic and Jalen and all that. Wilbon was the only one of the 4 of them to pick San Antonio. But even him, I think they all had it going 6 games. Biggest shocker of the weekend's got to be the Memphis Grizzlies getting eliminated in 4 straight games. Unbelievable, really.
Definitely.
Much more to talk about, though. Southern California baseball fans, the Freeway Series got underway last night, although it was kind of more or less like a Little League game with all the errors and the ridiculous amount of hits. But that's fun for Southern California fans. Angels-Dodgers playing 4 games straight. We'll talk about the hockey playoffs. Kings going for a big Game 7. Another one big for Southern California fans. Let's get it started, though. Starting the NBA. Well, since we already touched on it, we might as well stay in the West. The San Antonio Spurs.
Wow.
And it seems like, it's going to sound weird saying this, are finally back to the NBA Finals. Tim Duncan, in case you guys forgot, when he came into the league in the strike-shortened season, he won right away. His first year in the league, won a championship.
Hall of Famer, no doubt.
Then, of course, our Lakers had the three-peat. And then Detroit and San Antonio kind of went back and forth for several years there. But San Antonio won in 03. They won in 05. They won in 07. Tim Duncan's 4-0 in the NBA Finals. Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili 3-0 themselves. The Spurs, with their big 3, headed back to the NBA Finals, 5th finals appearance for Tim Duncan. And I think whether it's Miami or Indiana, the way that San Antonio swept Memphis like that, the Spurs, the old, boring Spurs, have an excellent shot at winning another NBA title.
Oh, they look more than ready. Are they the favorites to win it all now?
I would say yes. As dominant as Miami's been all year. Let me back up on the Spurs real quick here. We've talked about this before, and it's just crazy to me that basketball fans as a whole don't bring this up more often. Obviously, here at Fanalyze This, with AP out, right now, we're big Laker fans.
Yes.
He doesn't really have a team he's loyal to, but, Michael Liu and I, we're big Laker fans. Obviously, everyone talks about Phil Jackson being the greatest coach of all time, but I just feel like Greg Popovich doesn't get enough credit.
Oh, definitely not.
I mean, year in, year out, you hear about him being one of the best coaches in the league. They got the championships, since those core guys have been brought together, which, by the way, for those of you that didn't know, the general manager that brought these Spurs stars together was Greg Popovich before he was the head coach.
Crazy.
So he built this team, too.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just crazy to me how anytime Phil Jackson gets brought up, which got brought up a lot in the last couple weeks because he had a new book out, which you don't need a new book to know that you're going to trash Kobe. We already know that. But, how does Greg Popovich's name not come up every single time when we're talking about greatest coaches of all time? It's incredible to me. Yeah, they're boring, but they play basketball the right way. Like, if there were a book that says, here's how to play basketball 101, that is the San Antonio Spurs under Greg Popovich.
Exactly. They may be boring, but they are effective.
Very.
Let me just say this. Didn't we say that Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol were going to have their way against the San Antonio Spurs?
We did, and we were 100% wrong.
Yeah, we were 100% wrong. If I were to tell you that Zach Randolph was going to score less than, or he wouldn't score more than 15 points in that series in any of the
15 was his high in the series?
15 was his highest.
Wow.
And he was going to shoot well below 50%. I would have called you crazy. I would have called myself crazy for even thinking that.
Yeah, Zebo definitely shipped the bed, didn't he?
Yeah, Tim Duncan must have found the fountain of youth because he's looking like vintage Tim Duncan on both offense and defense.
The big fundamental, what's he in his 14th or 15th year now?
That's a good question.
And he looks like the best Tim Duncan that we've seen, and it's pretty much incredible. Again, big Laker fans, so I guess we should be a little shocked that us, our problem all year was, we're old. San Antonio, they balance out, but if you take their big three at the top, I mean, Parker's only 31, but Duncan and Ginobili, they've got some years on them.
Yeah.
They're NBA old, and they don't look it this year. San Antonio, again, back to the finals, excellent shot at winning it, and I believe game one is it the 5th or the 6th of June?
That's a good question.
It's the 5th or 6th of June, so regardless which one it is, the Spurs, the old team, finger quotes that they are, get now a whole week off to prepare for Indiana and or Miami.
And that's crazy because Miami or Indiana, whoever wins, they're having a hard-fighting series right now.
I'm going to get to that series real quick, but one thing, and because I trash him probably the most, and I got to give the guy credit, little Frenchie, Tony Parquet, was huge in the Memphis
He's
series.
phenomenal.
24.5 points a game, 9.5 assists per game. Holy crap.
This
Career
guy was-
career playoff high last night with 37, right?
Yeah, he was a monster and a killer in that closeout game. It looked like he just couldn't miss. That last play, the last layup play where he crossed over Zach Randolph, I was like, I'm done.
The one where Bayless fouled him?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that put it out of way for
My gosh.
So Tony Parker, I think I still don't like you as a person, but I got to stop trashing you as a player because based on this season alone, top 5 in the NBA, no doubt about it. I think Jalen went a little far saying top 3.
Yeah.
But top 5 based on this season alone. Tony Parker, hey, who knew? Going over the East though, Miami and Indiana.
Boy, is this a fun
Indiana,
series to watch.
they stole home court, but then they gave it right back away, which kind of seems to be the theme in the Eastern Conference in these playoffs. Like, people have been stealing home court. All you got to do is take care of business at home and then giving it right back. So now Miami's up 2-1. Game 4 it's Tuesday, so tonight, 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. I think Indiana's going to tie the series up.
I would not doubt it. I think, Roy Hibbert, wow.
Roy Hibbert had a monster game. What was that, game 2?
Yeah, game 2.
He went off. What was it, 29 and 10, I think? He had a great
I believe
game.
So. But here's the thing as well. What happened with Indiana's bench? Don't they have a great bench? What happened to them?
Yeah,
they have
it
not
seems
been
like
showing
Frank
up.
Vogel has really shortened the bench also. Like,
Yeah.
he's using Mahimi, which you have to with the foul trouble with bigs, because he's basically the only big they got.
Yeah.
He's using Sam Young a lot, which I don't really understand.
Maybe for defensive purposes, but he's not all that great of a defender to begin with.
Right, but like guys like Tyler Hansbrough, like I like his heart. He may not be the best player, but Tyler Hansbrough is always going to give you quality minutes, and it seems like he's kind of losing out in minutes in this Miami series also. You need the big bodies that you have in Indiana. That's why you have the advantage over Miami, and they're not taking advantage of their strengths.
I really love that you bring up Tyler Hansbrough. He's that big body that loves to throw his body around, fights for rebounds, that hustle player that every team needs. I'm surprised that he's not getting more than 18 minutes.
One player I want to talk about for Miami who's been really a surprise, and anyone who thinks otherwise, you're lying to yourself. You just think the guy is cool. If you've been listening to Fanalize This, I'm a big Chris Birdman Anderson fan.
Birdman!
Right? I mean, we're supposed to be friends, aren't we? He's got all the tattoos, the mohawk. But Chris Birdman, in this Eastern Conference Finals, is really becoming a quality player. I don't know if he ended up missing a shot in Game 3, but in Game 1 and 2, he hasn't missed a shot.
No,
free throw or otherwise. Yes, Bosch is now hitting threes from the corner, and that's kind of been his MO against Indiana, but Birdman in this series has been the third wheel of Miami's big three.
You bring up a good point. In Game 3, he was 4 for 4 with 8 points and had 9 rebounds off the bench.
So he didn't miss in Game 3 either.
He did not
So Chris
miss a
Birdman
game.
Anderson has not missed a shot, free throw or otherwise, in the Eastern Conference Finals.
That is crazy.
And he's putting up good numbers. The hustle plays you can't say enough about, but I think back on this show when Chris Birdman Anderson was looking for a job along with Kenya Martin, and I said the Lakers should sign either or, if not both. Kenya Martin was huge for the Knicks. Birdman's still huge for Miami. I'm just saying. Oh, that's just the perfect song to introduce baseball. I'm sorry, it's perfect. It makes me think of baseball.
We should just let that song sit because that song is just awesome.
You know what? I'm gonna play it again.
Thank you.
We got 37 seconds. It's just so good. It makes me think of baseball. Summer is baseball. Being an Angels fan, living in Southern California, we got the Freeway Series just started yesterday, and the Angels are finally playing good. The 8-game winning streak got snapped, but the fact is there was an 8-game winning streak. It's freaking awesome, as is this song. So I'm going to let this run real quick, and we'll get back to the Freeway Series in about 20 seconds. You know what it is, too. It's timeless. That could be a hit today.
Yeah.
If that came out today, that would still be a hit. So, talked about the Freeway Series. Game 1 was really more like a Little League game. There were several errors. There were like 20-some-odd hits between the two teams. Dodgers ended up winning, but, I mean, it doesn't bother me. Like, I'm okay if both the Angels and Dodgers are doing well. I obviously prefer the Angels to do better.
But you're just a guy that supports their hometown.
Yeah,
right?
you know, like all I ever want in a World Series is Angels-Dodgers.
Oh,
And, you know,
that would be
coming
fun
into
to
this
watch.
season, it looked like we're finally going to get it. They both spent a lot of money, and they both, you know, started off really bad. Angels, however, I don't know if you've been following baseball in the last week and a half or so. We finally lost yesterday to the Dodgers, but have 3 more against, you know, the Freeway rival. 8 straight. We're now right back into this, and it's not even June yet. So Angels fans that, you know, we're jumping ship, and, oh, it's going to be last year, we're too far down, it's happening again, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Pitching's looking good. Weaver's back Friday. Everyone's hitting. Angels are 8.5 now, and let's not forget, Oakland was 13.5 back from Texas with a little over a month to play and won the AL West. Now, the only other thing I want to touch on baseball is all the freaking games that are today. I don't know if you've seen the schedule.
Have not.
Okay. So, like I said, Angels will be at Dodgers. That'll be at 7:10 tonight at Chavez Ravine. Also, it's a 4-game series. 2 games in L.A., and then tomorrow and Thursday will be down here in Anaheim.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. I'm going to try to go to one of those. So Angels at Dodgers. Atlanta will be at Toronto. Colorado at Houston. Baltimore at Washington. Pittsburgh at Detroit. Cleveland at Cincinnati. Miami at Tampa. Yankees at Mets. Philly at Boston. Cubs at White Sox. Minnesota at Milwaukee. AP's Cardinals at Kansas City. San Francisco at Oakland, and San Diego at Seattle. Holy crap, who isn't playing today? Full schedule of baseball games. Again, like I said, you know, it's late May, so I'm not even going to bother telling you what's going on in the standings, but I am going to tell you about the Angels and the Dodgers. Right now, Angels only 5 games under 500, 8.5 behind Texas, and again, it's May 28th. Dodgers on the flip side of that, they are in last place. They're 21-28, 7 games under 500, 7.5 out of first place. That's the luxury of playing in the NL West. The Dodgers are out of it now. Again, it's May 28th. They'll be fine. I'm just saying. Uh-oh. Was there a pay-per-view this weekend?
I'm so glad that you brought up if there was a pay-per-view this
I
weekend.
think there was. Was it UFC?
Was it UFC? I honestly thought it was WWF.
No, you know what? I'm pretty sure UFC 160 was on Saturday night. Now, you know, for those of you listening to the show, you know Michael is our resident MMA expert here, but I've really, really become fond of UFC again. They added so many fighters, it was hard to follow, but, you know, in talking to my co-host, Michael here, I'm back on board, man. I'm a huge UFC fan again. I didn't see the entire card. I did, however, make it a point to watch 3 specific fights, and those are what I want to talk about. But what I want to start with, though, is the Grant Maynard fight.
Oh, man. And let me just throw this in there. That was a number 1 contenders fight. I'm actually surprised I actually had a Gray Maynard winning this fight and becoming the number 1 contender, because I would have loved to see Maynard versus Benson Henderson. But with the way that TJ Grant knocked out Gray Maynard, I'd love to see TJ Grant now versus the guy that you love to start watching now is Benson Henderson.
Yeah, I was going to just mention that, actually. In becoming, reborn UFC fan, I guess, Benson Henderson is my favorite new guy. Must mention that. Big Benson Henderson fan.
So let me just talk about the TJ Grant versus Gray Maynard fight. TJ Grant just lights up Gray Maynard. Catches him with the right hook. Maynard gets hurt. TJ Grant follows up with more punches.
And he just kept abusing him against the cage. I thought they could have stopped it, but
they could have stopped it either time.
He just kept pummeling him.
Yeah, he kept pummeling him, and the ref said, you know what, I've seen enough. The fight is over. TJ Grant, the number 1 contender, next person in line to fight for the lightweight title.
What was interesting about that fight, when they were toe-to-toe, Maynard kind of called him on, like, hey, come on, what's up? And then he got dazed with the first hit, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have called you out toe-to-toe.
Yeah.
Now, there were 2 other huge heavyweight fights.
huge. Produced
But let's talk
fireworks.
about the Bigfoot Velasquez fight first, just because it wasn't, in my opinion, as exciting as the JDS Mark Hunt fight.
Oh, I agree. This fight was very interesting.
And a rematch, for those of you who
It
don't
was
know.
a rematch. Cain Velasquez dominated in the first fight, but what was interesting in this fight, Cain Velasquez actually shot for 2 takedowns, but was stuffed. Bigfoot actually stuffed the takedowns. Cain Velasquez couldn't get him to the ground. So in my head, I was all like, uh-oh, this fight could be different. Bigfoot maybe does have a shot. And as soon as I said that to myself, there goes Bigfoot. Falls to the ground. Cain Velasquez catches him with the right. Bigfoot's not guarding. Well, he has his hands over his head, but not really moving. Mario Yamazaki.
Wait, that's funny that this happened to you during a Velasquez fight. When him and Dos Santos fought the first time, he won that one, right?
No, the
Other way
first
around.
fight, JDS won the
That's
first
right. Okay,
fight.
watching the first JDS Cain Velasquez fight, I had that moment like it sounds like you had on Saturday night. I said something along the lines where, Cain's got this, I guarantee he's going to win it, and a split second later, lost the fight. Like, it sounds like exactly what you went through on Saturday.
Yeah, as soon as I said, maybe Bigfoot has a shot. No, there goes Bigfoot. Falls to the ground.
First
knocked
round,
out.
for those of you who didn't see it.
First round TKO. So, Cain Velasquez finally gets his first title defense under his belt.
Don't say who's going to fight yet in case they don't know.
Okay, they don't know yet. So let's go on to the next fight.
Which I thought, and again, I only watched 3 of the fights, but for me, this was fight of the night.
It actually did win Fight of the Night.
Oh, did it?
It won Fight of the
Yeah.
Night. JDS and Mark Hunt both get a $50,000 bonus, which is nice to have in their pockets. So let me just go over this fight. Mark Hunt, the Super Samoan, versus Junior Cigano dos Santos. Wow.
Great fight.
I mean, it lived up to its height.
Absolutely.
JDS and Mark Hunt kept it standing. Wow, JDS he has dynamite in his hands. I mean,
Well,
the
irony here is we know JDS has dynamite in his hands, but he won with the kick.
He won with a kick
So
in the third round.
uncharacteristic of him, right?
But man, JDS rocked Hunt a few times. But let me give Mark Hunt credit.
That
has
guy can
heart.
take a punch.
He can take a punch. He has heart. He actually stumbled Junior Dos Santos, I believe, in the second round too. That had his corner worried, be like, hey, be careful. This guy does have solid hands.
Mark
too.
Hunt's so big and stocky, and we talked about this last week, I think, off the air, that even his jabs look like they have just so much power behind it.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
There's no light punch that guy throws. So to be a guy like Dos Santos and be taking hits from a guy like Mark Hunt and then ultimately win the fight, can't say enough about either or. I think Mark Hunt will be back. We definitely haven't seen the last of him. It's no
definitely.
shame to lose to Junior Dos Santos. I mean, the guy's, 11-1?
Yeah, in his past few fights.
11-1.
I mean,
Wait a minute. Isn't your boy Cain also 11-1?
Cain is 11. What's crazy?
So
I'm
wait
glad
a minute. So, Cain Velasquez, Junior Dos Santos are both 11-1. Both of their 1 losses are to each other,
Yes,
and they're about to go at it for the rubber match.
definitely. Oh,
No
my
date's been
gosh.
set yet, but it's
No
looking
date.
like this might end up on the Supercard fight for the 20-year anniversary in November.
It could end up right there, but
It's far enough away. I mean, we're
Yeah.
still in May.
Dana White did say he wanted it to have it before December, and the super fight card will be in November. So I'm just saying it would. Well, I shouldn't say it. I'm just saying that's your line, but I think that would be a perfect add-on for the super fight card. I mean, Anderson Silva versus John Jones, Cain Velasquez versus JDS. You couldn't ask for a better card.
I want GSP Benson Henderson. That's what would make it better for me.
If they added that, wow, that would be awesome.
So yeah, UFC 160 was Saturday night. Those are the results. Again, since UFC is so huge now, we're now, again, less than 2 weeks away from the next event, June 8th.
Yep. I also wanted to, since this was on the main card too, Cowboy Donald Cerrone.
I like the Cowboy.
Oh man, he is awesome. Every time if you watch a Cowboy fight, it's going to be a great fight. Cowboy defeats KJ Noons, who KJ Noons is a great boxer and kickboxer. He just looked like an amateur against Cowboy. Cowboy wins by unanimous decision. Great fight as well. Can't wait to see Cowboy fight again.
And then this new one is 161, or is it like an FX number or whatever?
I believe it's an FX. It's what's his name? Fabricio Werdum versus Antonio Nogueira. I'm pretty sure you've heard of those names
Obviously.
before. Great Brazilian fighters. Both have a great ground game. Great stand-up game as well. I can't wait for this fight.
Again, that'll be June 8th.
Can I help you?
Can I help you?
What do you do?
I do it all.
Have a seat.
I will, because that's something I can do.
Do something. Do something.
I am. I did.
What
It's
did you
already
do?
done.
What did you do?
I helped you.
Are you drunk?
Not drunk enough.
Let's talk a little NHL playoffs. Well, I guess I'll start in the Eastern Conference, where my favorite team, the Pittsburgh Penguins, is sitting waiting for the Boston Bruins to start the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know if you knew that. Penguins, they're there.
I bet you're happy about that.
I'm pretty happy about it. I like the Penguins, and I talked about this last week, where I not just last week, but for really about a month or so, I've been saying I want to see Penguins Blackhawks because it'd be the best hockey. But I corrected myself last Tuesday and realized I know too many Kings fans. I really want it to be the Kings and the Penguins. It makes for a funner game to watch. I'll more than likely be with Kings fans when I watch these games. So I'd like to see the Kings win. On that note, they got a couple things in their way still. The Kings are playing Game 7 against San Jose tonight at Staples Center, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is a tough one. I mean, the Kings have been good at Staples. They've been kind of dismal on the road, but good enough that they're a game away from the Western Conference Finals. San Jose as a whole is
This is an NBA.
Right. Definitely more experienced in Game 7s. I mean, there's very few guys on the Kings who've even played in a Game 7, but I mean, Southern California, Northern California, it's never going to be a comparison with me, unless we're talking football. I'll never pick the Chargers over the Raiders. But if you're asking me Sharks, Kings, I got to go with the Kings with this one. The other matchup in the West, though, Chicago and Detroit. Chicago forced a Game 7 last night, winning 4-3, really kind of in late fashion also. Game 7 for that one will be Wednesday at Chicago, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that favors the Blackhawks, but that being said, I want the Kings to now beat the Blackhawks. If you've been listening to the show, you know I hate Detroit, so obviously I got no love for them. And obviously my Pittsburgh Penguins beating the Boston Bruins, although I do think it's cool that Boston got to an Eastern Conference Finals with, what happened with the Marathon and all that.
Yeah.
And you can root for the Red Sox or the Bruins or even the Patriots if you're a Laker fan, but I got no love for the Boston Celtics. So.
Oh, you and me both, brother.
So I'm okay with the Boston Bruins being there, but now that you're playing my Pittsburgh Penguins, that's a wrap. I guess it helped turn the volume up. There we go. Well, we reached that point in the show where there's a bunch of little stories going on. Doesn't really warrant a whole 5-minute segment, but they're worth mentioning in a little segment that we like to call I'm Just Saying. So, where to start here? Tim Duncan?
Tim Duncan.
Let's
Let's
do
start
Tim
off with
Duncan.
Tim Duncan.
Tim Duncan, we talked about his success as an NBA player, and the guy never seems to do anything wrong. You never hear anything bad about him. The worst thing I think we've ever heard about Duncan is his rivalry with Joey Crawford. Remember he got thrown out of a game on the bench one time, and
Remember
then
the costume picture?
that was this past Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tim Duncan just doesn't do anything wrong, so this story really kind of shocked me when you told me about it a couple hours ago. Tim Duncan getting divorced, huh?
Wow.
That's weird. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously we don't know much about the guy's personal life, but he just seems like a guy that could do no wrong. How could any woman hate him? I was surprised to hear this. So Tim Duncan getting divorced after, what?
12 years,
12
I believe.
years.
Yeah.
Incredible. So she was with him, the whole ride, basically.
Yeah.
And whatever happened, Tim Duncan, I guess, they don't stay married in San Antonio, do they?
You think it has anything to do with Tony Parker?
I was just going to ask, I wonder if Tony Parker has anything to do with this, because we all know what happened with Brent Barry's wife.
Oh, man.
I'm just saying. Anyways, so you're going back to the finals, so I guess I don't feel too bad for you, Tim Duncan, but I was surprised to hear that. This story I liked, and I actually forgot that he played 6 seasons with him and was the huge part of the Charles Barkley trade that sent him to Phoenix. Jeff Hornacek, new head coach of the Phoenix Suns.
Wow.
Yeah, I totally forgot about his years on the Suns.
Yeah, that threw me off that he actually has a head coaching job.
Didn't know he was being considered. Didn't know that he was even, looking to be coaching. I mean, when you think about Jeff Hornacek, you obviously think about that core of the Utah Jazz: Malone, Stockton, Jerry Sloan, and Jeff Hornacek. If you go a little further back, you might not know that, but maybe Mark Eaton even if you go further back. But You would think if it's someone in that whole core of guys that was getting a coaching job, it'd be Jerry Sloan.
Yeah.
No idea that Jeff Hornacek was even getting into coaching, but he's the new Phoenix Suns head coach, and I think that's very cool since he played for him for 6 seasons.
Congratulations to you, Mr. Jeff Hornacek.
Yeah, can't hate that. I wonder if he'll wave to his kids from the bench like when he did free throws.
I'm just saying.
Okay, let's see. This story is kind of telling to me, and as a Laker fan, it makes me a little bit nervous. The Lakers have an assistant coach named Steve Clifford. For those of you who aren't familiar with him, he was an assistant coach under both Jeff and Stan Van Gundy. Most recently was an assistant in Orlando and came over, took a job with the Lakers after the Dwight Howard trade. Well, Steve Clifford has now been hired as the new Charlotte, I don't know if we're calling Bobcats still or Hornets or whatever, but he's the new head coach of Charlotte.
Oh, okay.
That's a little telling to me. It makes me kind of lead into things, which, the media does. We do that. It may not mean anything, but is this another sign that Dwight's not staying?
I believe so, unfortunately. But here's my thing with Dwight. I don't mind if he does not want to play for the Lakers, but if you don't want to play for LA, then say so.
Yeah, don't hold us hostage. At least pick up a phone, make a phone call to Pau Gasol and be like, hey, bro, here's what's going on. I can't sign anything till July 1st, but I'm out. I'm going to Houston, or I'm going to go to the state. It better not be Golden State. That's scary. I hope that doesn't happen. I'm okay with the Houston idea, but Golden State, they're 2009 Orlando Magic upgrade, are they not?
Definitely.
It's the same team, but better. You got better shooters. You still got the same big man. I think Dwight next year is going to have a bounce-back year and be the same Dwight Howard we've seen over his whole career. Obviously had the injuries last year.
Not only are they better, they're younger, which is even
Much younger.
scarier.
I think they're the youngest team in the league, aren't they?
I believe so.
It's either them or the now Pelicans.
Who?
What are they? The New Orleans Pelicans. Although, I must say, I love the logo. I hate the name, love the logo.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
So yeah, anyways, we'll know more about that, when July rolls around. But it looks like Dwight Howard intends on holding the Lakers hostage until the last minute, and he does what's best for Dwight Howard. And as a Laker fan, guys, we can't really be mad. We knew what we were getting into. We knew he was a selfish player when he did this to Orlando for a year and a half. We can't really cry about it now.
I wanted to add in this little story real quick, if I may. Forrest Griffin, great fighter. I wanted to mention this before the show ended. Forrest Griffin announced retirement at the UFC 160 post-conference. Forrest Griffin, was light heavyweight champion, helped build this sport as well with this Stephen Bonner fight. I just want to say thank you for all the years, Forrest Griffin. You're an awesome fighter, awesome person.
Not to knock Forrest Griffin, but I got to ask you something. When he was, a big name in the UFC, and, obviously that Bonner fight, everyone remembers that from Tough One. Wasn't it Griffin that was, juicing at the time?
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you.
I feel like it was Griffin. It could have been Bonner, though.
No, it was Bonner.
It was Bonner. I do mix them up a
Yeah.
lot. Obviously, they're going to be connected forever because of that epic The Ultimate Fighter #1 finale, but I'm just saying. So Forrest Griffin's retired, but they're both going in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, they're both making the Hall of Fame. Congratulations to both of you, but Forrest Griffin, thank you for all the years.
Even if they didn't have a successful career, you could put just that fight alone in the Hall of Fame. It's one of the best toe-to-toe, that's a man fight right there. No one backing down, both bloody, just taking punches. Great fight. If you haven't seen it, make sure you watch the Tough #1 finale. Forrest Griffin, Stephen Bonner, one of my favorite fights of all time.
It is on YouTube. It is on YouTube.
I'm just saying.
One other story, and I thought this was hilarious, actually. Okay. Now, stay with me here when I bring up Bieber, because I know he has nothing to do with sports here. If you've read a paper or been on TMZ, this kid drives like a teenager. He's a teenager, 20-something, whatever. He drives like a dick.
Oh, like a douchebag.
He lives in the same gated community in Calabasas as apparently Eric Dickerson, former NFL Hall of Fame running back, and Keyshawn Johnson. You know Keyshawn.
Yes.
Well, apparently he was driving much too fast for a gated community, and Keyshawn had his son, I believe it was, in the car. So he stopped off at his own house, dropped off his kid, and then went chasing after Bieber to let him know you're going too fast. Now, here's where it gets funny. Bieber in a Ferrari. Keyshawn was in a Prius. Oh, but it gets better.
Oh, man.
So apparently he chases him down to his house. The Bieber gets out of his car, runs in the house. Keyshawn's got his driveway, the Prius blocking the Ferrari, so he couldn't take off in his car or whatever. And I guess he refused to come out of the house, was just deathly afraid of Keyshawn Johnson whooping the tar out of him. And also Eric Dickerson, I guess, tweeted about it, like, yeah, I live in that neighborhood too. That kid needs to slow his ass down. So, Justin Timberlake, you're a douche. Or Justin Timberlake, I'm sorry. Justin Timberlake's very cool. Justin Bieber, you're a douche. Slow down. Well, we've reached that time.
We certainly did.
Oh man, did we forget to cover anything? We talked hockey, baseball, UFC, basketball. Jeff Hornacek coaching the Suns. No athlete birthdays that I looked up today, so no happy birthday to Mr. T like we did last week. Anything else you want to add?
Happy birthday, Mr. T.
No, that was last Tuesday.
I'm sorry.
No, I always try to find something relevant, but
Yeah.
apparently no athletes were born today.
Nope.
So if you have a kid that's born today, probably not going to be an athlete.
No.
For Finalize This, I'm Joe 5 o'clock somewhere.
And sitting in for AP, I'm Michael Lou.
Peace.